Leave, now. Dr. Victoria Chen's perfectly manicured nail pointed toward the exit like a loaded gun. The 34-year-old mathematics genius had just publicly shredded Marcus Hayes in front of 28 doctoral candidates, treating him like invisible dust beneath her Italian leather boots. Marcus's grip tightened on his mop handle. 28 pairs of eyes burned holes through his skull as students barely hid their amusement at the free entertainment. Chen stood commanding the room beside her chalkboard filled with intricate mathematical formulas, her Princeton diplomas displayed behind her like war medals of intellectual dominance. But Marcus didn't leave. Instead, he moved closer to the mathematical equation she'd been presenting. His focused gaze swept across those elegant symbols with an intensity that made Chen's smug expression flicker for just a heartbeat. "Excuse me, Dr. Chen," Marcus said quietly, his voice slicing through the thick silence. "Your calculation on line 3 contains a mistake." The lecture hall erupted into gasps and whispers. What happens when the person everyone ignores knows more than the expert? The humiliation rippled through Riverside University's pristine corridors like wildfire spreading through dry grass. Within an hour, everyone knew. The maintenance worker had challenged Dr. Victoria Chen, the mathematics department's brightest rising star. Chen's spacious corner office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking perfectly landscaped gardens where wealthy students debated complex theories over lattes that cost $40. Her walls showcased degrees from Princeton, Oxford, and Caltech, a monument to intellectual supremacy. Research papers bearing her signature filled the pages of world-renowned academic publications. At exclusive faculty gatherings, she discussed groundbreaking research with award-winning scientists while drinking champagne that exceeded most people's weekly grocery budget. Meanwhile, Marcus Hayes pushed his supply cart through the university buildings long after sunset. His overnight shift from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. covered 4 different campus facilities, disposing of waste, cleaning floors, restocking bathrooms. During his precious 15-minute breaks, he devoured complex mathematics textbooks concealed behind plumbing manuals. Stained notebooks crammed with advanced equations lived in his locker next to industrial cleaning solutions. The campus social structure was brutally clear. Students invested $70,000 annually for the privilege of walking Riverside's elite grounds. Professors existed in intellectual towers, their brilliance measured by publications and research grants. Support personnel remained invisible, human furniture whose only purpose was maintaining the academic utopia. Chen had never questioned this divine order. Intelligence demanded proper breeding, expensive schooling, and powerful connections. She was dating Dr. Nathan Pierce from Princeton's mathematics faculty, reinforcing her conviction that genius belonged exclusively to the credentialed elite. When custodial staff entered her classroom, she instinctively assumed they possessed zero capacity for intellectual discourse. Campus security regularly interrogated Marcus about his presence in academic facilities during late hours. Students clutched their belongings tighter when he entered study spaces, treating him like a dangerous threat. Faculty members looked through him as though he were transparent, their discussions stopping abruptly whenever he approached. But Chen's perfectly constructed reality was about to shatter. The annual Fibonacci Challenge represented mathematical brilliance at its absolute peak. $60,000 plus guaranteed doctoral admission to any participating institution awaited whoever claimed victory. International mathematics communities monitored this competition obsessively, using outcomes to recruit exceptional minds and assess academic prestige. Chen served as chief evaluator. Her reputation was built on recognizing authentic mathematical genius. For 17 years, she had accurately identified which candidates possessed the intellectual depth for advanced research. Her assessment was considered flawless throughout academic circles. This year promised her greatest achievement yet. 14 candidates had qualified: Princeton doctoral students, Oxford researchers, Caltech scholars. Each possessed impeccable backgrounds and extensive formal education. The competition would demonstrate proper mathematical training at its absolute finest. But something haunted Chen's confidence. That classroom incident kept replaying in her thoughts like a scratched record stuck on repeat. Marcus's observation about her equation had been correct, embarrassingly accurate. She had invested 30 minutes reworking those formulas before discovering her computational error. How had a janitor spotted something she'd overlooked? Chen rationalized the anomaly: blind luck. Maybe he'd overheard graduate student conversations. Perhaps someone had coached him through identifying the mistake. Custodians certainly didn't comprehend advanced mathematical topology through self-study, yet doubt crept into her consciousness during solitary moments. Marcus's mathematical notation had appeared surprisingly refined. His explanation demonstrated genuine comprehension, not simple memorization. Something about his analytical methodology felt strangely familiar, almost professional. She buried these disturbing thoughts. The natural hierarchy demanded respect. Intelligence followed predictable patterns: proper schooling, structured training, academic credentials. Anomalies didn't exist in her carefully organized worldview. During department meetings, Chen emphasized maintaining rigorous standards. She stressed the critical importance of thorough evaluation, ensuring only qualified individuals accessed advanced education. Her colleagues nodded approvingly, trusting her judgment completely. But late at night, when campus fell silent and Marcus's supply cart echoed through vacant hallways, Chen found herself wondering about the man beneath that uniform. What motivated someone to work 3 jobs while studying advanced mathematics in stolen moments? What kind of mind could identify errors that escape Princeton-educated professors? These questions threatened everything she believed about intelligence, education, and social hierarchy. The Fibonacci challenge would resolve these doubts permanently. Mathematical truth was absolute. Either you possessed genuine understanding or you didn't. Credentials and structured training would triumph over lucky guesses and amateur passion. Chen had invested her entire career constructing walls between the intellectual elite and the working class. Those barriers protected the sanctity of academic achievement, ensuring only the deserving received recognition. Soon those walls would face their ultimate test. What happens when the foundation of everything you trust begins to crumble? 3 days later, Chen stood before a packed auditorium announcing Fibonacci Challenge registration. Her passion was contagious as she described the intellectual rigor demanded. Her genuine love for mathematics made her truly captivating for the first time in years. This competition represents the absolute peak of mathematical achievement, she proclaimed, her voice carrying across the hall packed with ambitious doctoral students. $60,000 and automatic PhD acceptance await those with true intellectual depth. Her eyes blazed with the fire that had originally drawn her to mathematics before prejudice and arrogance clouded her vision. A Princeton graduate student raised his hand. "Dr. Chen, can any university employee participate?" Chen's smile turned condescending, her momentary vulnerability evaporating like morning fog. "Technically, yes, but advanced mathematics demands years of structured education. We wouldn't want anyone publicly embarrassing themselves." Her gaze deliberately swept the room, finding Marcus near the rear entrance where he'd paused during his cleaning duties. The message was unmistakable. Let me demonstrate the sophistication level required, Chen continued, approaching the chalkboard with dramatic flair. She wrote an advanced calculus problem that appeared deceptively straightforward but demanded specialized techniques. Anyone struggling with this probably shouldn't waste our time with the actual competition. Students hunched over notebooks working through elaborate integration methods. The problem involved trigonometric functions raised to various exponents, the type requiring special substitution strategies and integration by parts. After several minutes, most arrived at the correct solution. Chen nodded approvingly as students shared their approaches. Excellent work. This represents the minimum mathematical sophistication we expect. As she reached for the eraser, preparing to end her demonstration, Marcus's quiet voice cut through the satisfied murmur. Dr. Chen, there's a more elegant solution using symmetry principles. The auditorium fell dead silent. Every head swiveled toward the man in maintenance coveralls who had dared interrupt an academic presentation. Chen's hand froze midair. Her practiced smile tightened as she turned to face this unprecedented challenge to her authority. "Oh, really?" Her voice dripped with contempt. "Please enlighten us with your wisdom." The tension crackled as Marcus walked toward the front. His presence commanded attention despite his uniform, shoulders back, movements confident, eyes focused on the mathematical challenge rather than the hostile stares. Chen stepped aside with exaggerated courtesy, gesturing toward the chalkboard like a gladiator offering a sword to an opponent. Marcus picked up the chalk with steady hands. His mathematical notation was sharp, professional, surprisingly sophisticated. Instead of following the student's complex routes, he employed a clever substitution exploiting the symmetry of those trigonometric functions. By recognizing this integral possesses mirror symmetry, Marcus explained clearly, we can transform it into something much simpler, same answer, but requiring half the effort. His approach was mathematically beautiful, revealing why the integral had its particular value rather than just calculating it through brute force. Graduate students leaned forward, following his elegant reasoning. Even Chen found herself impressed despite her mounting alarm. The solution is identical, Marcus concluded. But this method reveals the underlying mathematical architecture. Scattered applause erupted before dying beneath Chen's withering glare. Her competitive instinct flared, threatened by this unexpected display of mathematical sophistication. In a moment of reckless pride fueled by confusion and unwanted attraction, she strode to the chalkboard and wrote a complex differential equation from her personal research. Fine. If you consider yourself so mathematically talented, she turned to face him, her voice carrying across the silent auditorium. Solve this equation, and I'll marry you. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. The joke was clearly designed to humiliate, but there was an edge of genuine challenge beneath the mockery. Marcus studied the problem for 30 seconds that felt like hours. Then he began writing. What happens when arrogance meets its equal? Chen's differential equation stared back at her from the chalkboard like an accusation. She had written it impulsively, never imagining the janitor would attempt a solution. This was doctoral-level mathematics, something that had consumed her for months to solve during her PhD research. The auditorium held its collective breath as Marcus approached the problem with methodical precision. His chalk moved across the board with remarkable confidence, each symbol placed deliberately. Chen watched his technique, searching for signs of confusion or hesitation that would validate her worldview. They never came. Instead, Marcus worked through the complex equation systematically. He identified the problem category, selected appropriate mathematical tools, and applied them with the fluidity of someone who understood the underlying structure. Within 7 minutes, he had produced a complete solution. Chen's face drained of color as she verified his work. Every step was correct. The answer matched her own research exactly. Dr. Chen, Marcus said quietly, setting down the chalk. The solution is verified. Would you like me to check the boundary conditions? The room exploded into shocked whispers. Students grabbed phones, recognizing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Word spread through social media like a virus. A maintenance worker had just solved a research-level problem in front of Princeton's finest. Lucky guess, Chen managed, her voice lacking its usual confidence. One problem doesn't prove mathematical maturity. Anyone can memorize techniques without understanding theory. But her protest rang hollow. The elegance of Marcus's solution revealed deep comprehension, not mere memorization. Dr. Angela Martinez, visiting from Berkeley as a guest lecturer, had been watching from the auditorium's rear. Her experienced eye recognized authentic mathematical talent when she witnessed it. Something about Marcus's approach felt strangely familiar, though she couldn't identify why. That was remarkably impressive, Dr. Martinez said, approaching the front. Your methodology was both rigorous and insightful. Chen's jaw clenched. Having another professor praise the janitor threatened everything her career was built upon. Since you're so confident, Mr. Chen's voice carried barely restrained frustration. Hayes, Marcus Hayes. Mr. Hayes, I officially invite you to enter the Fibonacci Challenge. But when you fail publicly, remember I tried sparing you the embarrassment. The gauntlet was thrown. Academic pride versus working-class determination. The entire mathematics world would be watching. Registration opened the following morning. Chen conducted preliminary screening personally, unusual for a department head, but she needed to maintain control. If Marcus was going to humiliate himself, she wanted a front-row seat. The screening required solving 3 increasingly difficult problems. Chen designed them specifically to expose gaps in informal education, problems demanding years of structured learning to master. 14 candidates gathered in the conference room. 13 were graduate students from prestigious universities with impeccable academic pedigrees. Then there was Marcus, still wearing his maintenance uniform, looking completely out of place among the academic elite. Blake Morrison from Princeton cracked his knuckles confidently. Emma Rodriguez, Chen's own protégé, reviewed her notes one final time. Tyler Chen from Oxford adjusted his designer glasses with practiced arrogance. You have 2 hours, Chen announced. Solve all 3 problems completely. Problem 1 involved finding the maximum value of a function with constraints. While others worked through lengthy calculations, Marcus used geometric reasoning to visualize the problem. He saw the solution as a point where 2 curves touched, solving it with elegant simplicity rather than brute computational force. Problem 2 required analyzing a special matrix type. Graduate students worked through complex formulas, solving multiple equations. Marcus immediately recognized a pattern in the matrix structure, reading the answer directly without lengthy calculations. Problem 3 was a famous historical problem about infinite series. This stumped most candidates who attempted various advanced techniques. Marcus surprised everyone by explaining the classical approach that the legendary mathematician Fibonacci had used centuries ago, demonstrating knowledge of mathematical history that impressed even the most skeptical observers. Time, Chen called, though her voice had lost its commanding edge. As solutions were reviewed, a disturbing pattern emerged. Marcus's answers weren't just correct. They were consistently more elegant than those of PhD candidates. His approaches revealed deeper understanding of mathematical structure and history. Dr. Martinez examined the papers with growing fascination. Marcus's mathematical style triggered memories she couldn't quite access. Something about his notation, his proof techniques, his choice of methods. It all felt like encountering an old friend whose name she'd forgotten. All candidates advance, Chen announced reluctantly. The competition begins tomorrow. But the real competition had already begun in Chen's mind. Her worldview was fracturing under the pressure of undeniable evidence. How could someone without formal education demonstrate such sophisticated mathematical understanding? That evening, alone in her office, Chen researched Marcus Hayes online. She found nothing. No academic publications, no university records, no trace of mathematical training. The mystery deepened her frustration and unwanted fascination. Social media exploded with coverage of the unprecedented qualifying session. Hashtag Janitor Genius began trending internationally. Mathematics departments worldwide debated the implications. Could genuine talent exist outside traditional academic channels? Chen's Princeton boyfriend called that night, his voice dripping with condescension. Victoria, surely you're not taking this janitor seriously. It's embarrassing for the department. But Chen couldn't shake the image of Marcus's confident chalk work, his elegant solutions, his quiet dignity under pressure. For the first time in her career, she questioned whether intelligence might not follow the predictable patterns she'd always assumed. The stakes were rising beyond academic pride. Her reputation, her beliefs about merit and education, her entire professional identity hung in the balance. How far would she go to protect everything she thought she knew about genius? The main auditorium buzzed with electric anticipation. 900 seats packed with students, faculty, and curious observers who had heard whispers of the janitor who dared challenge academic royalty. International livestream viewers climbed toward 30,000 as word spread through mathematics communities worldwide. Chen stood at the podium, her designer suit and confident demeanor projecting absolute authority. As department head and chief evaluator, she controlled every aspect of the competition. This was her domain, her rules, her moment to restore natural order. "Welcome to the annual Fibonacci Challenge," she announced, her voice carrying across the hushed auditorium. "Today, we celebrate mathematical excellence in its purest form. True mathematical maturity comes from years of rigorous training and proper preparation." Her eyes found Marcus among the 14 qualified contestants. The subtext was unmistakable. The competition format was elegantly brutal, 3 rounds of escalating difficulty with elimination at each stage. Round 1 would cut 14 contestants to 7. Semifinals would narrow 7 to 3. The championship round would crown a single winner. Chen had designed the progression specifically to favor formal education over raw talent. Each round would demand increasingly advanced knowledge typically acquired only through years of graduate school. "Our judging panel represents mathematical excellence," Chen continued, introducing professors from Princeton, Oxford, and Berkeley. Dr. Martinez nodded politely from her position, though something in her expression suggested growing unease with the proceedings. The contestants were introduced one by one. Blake Morrison, Princeton graduate student; Emma Rodriguez, Chen's star pupil with multiple published papers; Tyler Chen from Oxford; David Kim from MIT; Rachel Patel from Berkeley. Each introduction highlighted prestigious universities and impressive achievements. Then came Marcus Hayes, simply identified as university maintenance staff. Awkward silence filled the auditorium. A few scattered chuckles from the audience reflected the absurdity everyone felt witnessing a janitor among the academic elite. Chen's smile widened with satisfaction. The contrast couldn't be more perfect for her purposes. "Round 1 begins now," she announced. Contestants would solve problems at individual whiteboards while the audience observed. Complete transparency ensured integrity. The elimination problem appeared on the main screen. Prove that adding consecutive odd numbers always produces a perfect square. This was intentionally straightforward, something any college mathematics student should handle easily. Chen wanted to build confidence in her legitimate candidates while giving Marcus enough rope to hang himself publicly. Most contestants attacked the problem with formal mathematical proofs. They wrote complex formulas, used advanced logical reasoning, and followed prescribed academic methods. Their solutions were textbook perfect, exactly what any professor would expect from graduate students. But Marcus did something completely unexpected. While others filled their boards with complicated equations, he drew simple pictures. He arranged dots in square patterns, showing how adding odd numbers created larger and larger perfect squares. Each dot represented a number, and the visual pattern made the mathematical truth immediately obvious. "Look," he explained to the amazed audience, his voice carrying clearly through the microphone. "Mathematics isn't about memorizing complex formulas. It's about seeing the underlying pattern." His visual proof was instant and beautiful. Anyone in the audience could understand it just by looking, even without mathematics training. The dots formed perfect squares that grew naturally as you added more numbers. Dr. Martinez leaned forward with genuine excitement. "Absolutely brilliant," she whispered to her fellow judges. "That's real mathematical insight." The livestream chat exploded with appreciation from viewers worldwide. Comments flooded in. "I finally understand math. Why don't teachers explain it this way? Pure genius." Chen's confidence wavered as she witnessed the audience's enthusiastic reaction. Visual proofs were perfectly valid mathematics, but they revealed a type of natural insight that couldn't be taught through rote memorization. "Mr. Hayes's approach is creative," she managed, her voice tight with barely concealed anxiety. "But advanced mathematics requires more than pictures. Real mathematical theory demands rigorous formal methods." Her dismissive tone fooled no one. Everyone could see she was rattled. Round 1 results were announced. All contestants advanced to semifinals, but the audience's energy clearly favored Marcus's innovative solution over the mechanical textbook approaches. During the break, social media erupted worldwide. #JanitorGenius trended internationally. Academic Twitter divided into heated debates about talent versus formal education. Romantic shippers emerged with #ChenHayes, fascinated by the obvious tension between the brilliant professor and mysterious maintenance worker. University board members arrived to observe what had become an international phenomenon. Chen's Princeton ex-boyfriend flew in specifically to witness what he called Victoria's amusing little circus. Major news networks sent crews as they recognized the broader cultural story unfolding. Dr. Martinez approached Chen privately during intermission, her expression deeply concerned. "Victoria, this competition format seems unusually harsh. Are you certain the problem difficulty is appropriate?" "We maintain the highest standards," Chen replied defensively, though sweat beaded on her forehead despite the air conditioning. "Mathematical excellence requires no compromises." But Martinez's worried look suggested she recognized something troubling in Chen's motivations. As semifinals approached, Chen announced the next round would focus on graduate-level analysis, her personal area of expertise, and the most technical field requiring years of specialized training. For the first time, Marcus looked genuinely uncertain. The advanced mathematics ahead was far beyond anything he could visualize with simple pictures. Chen's triumphant smile returned as she sensed victory within reach. What happens when natural talent faces its ultimate test? The night before semifinals changed everything. Marcus sat alone in the university library at 3 a.m., surrounded by thick textbooks that might as well have been written in an alien language. The advanced mathematics ahead wasn't like the problems he'd solved before. This time, Clever thinking and visual patterns wouldn't be enough. He was entering Chen's world now, a realm of specialized knowledge that typically required years of graduate school to master. Meanwhile, Chen couldn't sleep. She paced her elegant apartment, designer heels clicking against hardwood floors. Tomorrow's problems were specifically designed to eliminate Marcus once and for all. She should feel victorious, but instead a strange emptiness gnawed at her chest. Why did proving herself right feel so much like losing? Despite the overwhelming challenge, something remarkable began to happen. Marcus started connecting the advanced concepts to simpler ideas he already understood. Complex mathematical theories weren't completely foreign. They were extensions of basic principles he'd mastered years ago, like learning that a skyscraper was built using the same bricks as a simple house. "I can do this," he whispered to himself, finding familiar patterns hidden beneath intimidating terminology. His natural intuition was guiding him through uncharted territory. Online viewers watching the library security cameras were amazed. Comments flooded in. "He's teaching himself doctoral-level math in one night. This is impossible, but it's happening." But the next morning brought unwelcome visitors. University security questioned Marcus's after-hours library access. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint about inappropriate use of educational resources by non-academic personnel. Chen's fingerprints were all over the harassment, though she maintained plausible deniability. "Perhaps maintenance staff should focus on their assigned duties," the security chief suggested coldly. "Academic facilities are reserved for legitimate educational purposes." The message was crystal clear: stay in your lane. During the pre-competition briefing, Blake Morrison approached Marcus hesitantly. The Princeton graduate student had spent the night reconsidering everything he'd witnessed. "I need to tell you something," Blake said quietly. "Watching you solve problems has taught me more about real mathematics than 4 years of graduate school. You see connections that the rest of us miss completely." Emma Rodriguez nodded in agreement. "Dr. Chen taught us formulas, but you understand the underlying meaning. That's much more valuable." Even his former rivals were beginning to recognize genuine brilliance when they saw it. However, media attention brought vicious criticism alongside growing support. Academic elitists use social media to question whether someone without proper qualifications belonged in serious mathematical discourse. "This is a publicity stunt that damages the integrity of higher education," wrote Dr. Nathan Pierce, Chen's Princeton boyfriend, in a widely shared editorial. "Mathematical competence requires systematic training, not amateur theatrics." The attacks became personal, targeting Marcus's appearance, background, and presumptuous challenge to established academic order. Chen amplified these criticisms through carefully worded public statements about maintaining rigorous standards. Something clicked during Marcus's final preparation session. The advanced mathematical concepts weren't as mysterious as they initially appeared. They followed logical patterns he could trace and understand. Despite the intimidating technical language, he realized mathematics was like a vast interconnected web, every advanced idea connected to simpler concepts through logical threads. Once you saw those connections, the complexity became manageable. "It's all the same mathematics," he told himself with growing confidence. "Just different ways of looking at the same underlying truth." But university policy prohibited unpaid leave for personal activities. Marcus still worked his regular cleaning shifts while preparing for the most important mathematical challenge of his life. By Thursday, exhaustion was taking its toll. Chen noticed him struggling to stay alert during a break between rounds. "Perhaps demanding work schedules aren't compatible with serious academic pursuits," she commented loudly enough for news cameras to capture. "Some people simply aren't positioned for this level of intellectual commitment." The cruel observation stung because it contained a grain of truth. Marcus was fighting this battle while carrying burdens his competitors couldn't imagine. Semi-final day arrived with the auditorium buzzing with anticipation. 7 contestants took their positions as the problem appeared on the main screen, its technical language intimidating to most viewers. Determine the convergence properties of this infinite mathematical series and analyze its behavior. To general audiences, it looked impossibly complex. But Marcus saw past the scary terminology to the underlying question. Does this mathematical pattern stabilize or spiral out of control? While other contestants mechanically applied memorized formulas, Marcus used intuitive reasoning to understand what the problem was really asking. He drew simple graphs showing how the mathematical series behaved, sometimes settling into predictable patterns, sometimes growing wildly. Think of it like a bouncing ball, he explained to the audience, his voice calm and clear. Sometimes the bounces get smaller and eventually stop. Sometimes they get bigger and never end. The mathematics tells us which type of behavior we're dealing with. His explanation made graduate-level analysis accessible to ordinary people while remaining completely accurate. The auditorium exploded in appreciation. Dr. Martinez stood and applauded openly, her eyes shining with admiration. "Extraordinary," she announced to the judging panel. "This demonstrates the deepest possible understanding of mathematical principles." He's not just solving problems, he's revealing the beauty hidden within complex theory. Even Chen felt a surge of unwilling respect. This wasn't luck or clever guessing. This was genuine mathematical brilliance operating at the highest level. When results were announced, 3 contestants remained: Emma Rodriguez, Chen's star student; Blake Morrison, Princeton's representative; and Marcus Hayes, the janitor who refused to accept limitations. International viewership peaked at 85,000 people. Academic institutions worldwide watched to see whether their fundamental assumptions about intelligence and education would survive this unprecedented challenge. That evening, Chen crafted the ultimate test. She selected a problem from her own doctoral dissertation, something that had taken her 4 years to solve with full university resources, expert advisors, and unlimited time. If anything could expose the limits of self-education and natural talent, this would be it. Tomorrow's final problem will require the deepest possible mathematical sophistication, she announced to assembled media. Only authentic mathematical maturity will suffice. Marcus stood alone in his small apartment that night, looking at his mother's medical bills piled on the kitchen table. Tomorrow's competition would determine everything: her treatment, his future, his dreams of returning to the academic world he'd been forced to abandon. But more than money was at stake. Millions of people who'd been underestimated, overlooked, or dismissed were watching to see if raw talent could triumph over institutional prejudice. Dr. Martinez sat in her hotel room, still troubled by the familiar feeling she couldn't shake. Something about Marcus's mathematical approach kept triggering memories she couldn't quite access. His style, his intuition, his way of seeing problems. It all felt like encountering an old friend whose name she'd forgotten. Tomorrow would bring the ultimate test of everything they all believed about genius, education, and human potential. Could one man's brilliance overcome a system designed to exclude him? Championship morning arrived with unprecedented fanfare. News crews positioned cameras throughout the auditorium. The live stream audience had swollen to over 120,000 viewers worldwide, all waiting to witness the final showdown between genius and prejudice. Chen took the stage with unusual confidence, her designer suit immaculate, her expression radiating absolute control. She had spent the entire night crafting what she considered the perfect trap. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice carrying across the packed auditorium. Today's final challenge represents true mathematical excellence. Given the unprecedented international attention this competition has received, I'm implementing what I call the Chen Standard, the most rigorous examination of mathematical maturity ever attempted. Dr. Martinez shifted uncomfortably in her judging seat. Something about Chen's tone suggested this wasn't about mathematical excellence anymore. This felt personal. Instead of a single problem, Chen announced a brutal three-part gauntlet designed to crush any hope Marcus might have harbored. First, solve a research-level problem in 2 hours. Second, present the solution to a panel of expert mathematicians. Third, defend the approach against aggressive questioning from specialists. This format will separate authentic mathematical maturity from enthusiastic guesswork, Chen declared, her eyes finding Marcus among the 3 remaining contestants. The real betrayal came when the problem appeared on the main screen. Marcus's blood ran cold as he recognized what Chen had done. This wasn't just difficult. It was her own doctoral research, a challenge she had spent 4 years solving with unlimited resources and expert guidance. The technical language looked intimidating to the audience, but mathematicians in the room immediately understood the impossible situation Chen had created. This required specialized knowledge from multiple graduate fields that typically took years to master properly. Emma Rodriguez and Blake Morrison exchanged knowing glances. As graduate students in Chen's academic circle, they had encountered variations of this problem in her advanced seminars. They possessed years of relevant coursework and direct access to Chen's published research methods. Marcus had 2 hours to solve what Chen herself had needed 4 years to complete. Murmurs of discontent rippled through the auditorium as the mathematical community recognized the setup. The live stream chat exploded with outrage from viewers worldwide who understood they were witnessing academic fraud in real time. Dr. Martinez stood up, her face flushed with anger. "Victoria, this problem seems entirely inappropriate for a general mathematics competition." "Excellence demands the highest standards," Chen replied coldly, her voice carrying across the silent auditorium. "We cannot lower our expectations simply because some participants lack proper preparation." Chen's gaze locked onto Marcus as she delivered her final psychological blow. "You have 2 hours to prove you belong among serious mathematicians. Anyone unable to demonstrate authentic mathematical sophistication should consider withdrawing gracefully rather than embarrassing themselves further." The timer began its merciless countdown. Marcus stared at the impossible problem, recognizing immediately that Chen had transported the competition into territory where his self-education couldn't possibly reach. For the first time, his unshakable confidence began to crack. What happens when natural talent faces a completely rigged game? The auditorium fell into suffocating silence as the 2-hour timer began its relentless countdown. 120,000 viewers worldwide held their breath, watching 3 mathematicians face Chen's impossible challenge. Emma and Blake immediately dove into familiar territory. Their years of graduate training guided them through Chen's specialized research methods. They wrote confidently, building upon foundations laid in countless seminars and study sessions, with access to all her published work. Marcus stared at the problem like a man facing his execution. The first 40 minutes were pure agony. While his competitors filled their whiteboards with sophisticated equations, Marcus struggled to find any entry point into Chen's labyrinthine challenge. Mathematical physics required knowledge he simply didn't possess, advanced theories, specialized techniques, frameworks that demanded years of formal study to understand properly. His whiteboard remained painfully empty, except for a few tentative scratches that led nowhere. Chen provided commentary for the live stream audience, her voice dripping with vindicated satisfaction. We're witnessing the fundamental difference between authentic mathematical education and amateur enthusiasm. Advanced problems require systematic knowledge built over many years of rigorous study. By minute 55, the cameras captured Marcus's growing desperation. He started multiple approaches, erased them, tried again. Each false start revealed the depth of his disadvantage more clearly to the watching world. Meanwhile, Emma and Blake steadily progressed through Chen's expected solution path. Their formal training provided detailed roadmaps through the complex theoretical landscape that Marcus was navigating blind. Comments flooded the live stream with crushing observations. He's completely lost. This is painful to watch. Chen was right about needing proper education. The janitor finally hit his limit. Academic Twitter erupted with vindicated reactions from Chen supporters. The narrative was shifting rapidly from underdog triumph to amateur exposed by harsh reality. Everything Chen had predicted was coming true before a global audience. At minute 70, disaster struck. Marcus made a critical error in his third attempt, misapplying a theorem he only partially understood from hasty textbook reading. The mistake cascaded through his work like a virus, invalidating everything he had painstakingly built. He stood motionless, chalk trembling in his hand, staring at equations that mocked his inadequacy. For the first time in his adult life, Marcus Hayes looked utterly defeated. Chen's voice cut through the silence like a blade designed for maximum damage. Perhaps we should allow struggling participants to withdraw with dignity rather than continue this painful display. Some challenges simply exceed the limits of informal preparation. The suggestion landed like a physical blow. News cameras zoomed in on Marcus's face, capturing the exact moment when unshakable confidence crumbled into doubt and shame. This image would be replayed millions of times, the moment a genius met its match against institutional knowledge. Chen continued her psychological assault, addressing the global audience with clinical precision. This demonstrates exactly why academic standards exist. Mathematical sophistication cannot be improvised or wished into existence. It requires proper foundations, systematic training, and institutional support that simply cannot be replaced by enthusiasm. Every word felt designed to crush Marcus's spirit completely while justifying everything Chen had always believed about intelligence and social hierarchy. At minute 85, Marcus set his chalk down and closed his eyes. He appeared ready to concede defeat gracefully, accepting that natural talent had finally met an insurmountable wall. Chen's triumphant smile suggested she had finally proven her fundamental point about the necessity of formal education and proper credentials. But then Dr. Martinez rose from her judging position, unable to remain silent any longer. "Before we continue," Martinez announced, her voice carrying unusual authority that commanded attention throughout the silent auditorium. "I want to remind everyone that mathematical history is filled with breakthrough discoveries made by individuals who ignored conventional wisdom and found new paths to truth." She wasn't helping Marcus directly, but her words carried deeper meaning that resonated through the tension. The most profound insights often come from minds unbound by traditional approaches. Sometimes the greatest mathematical truths are found by those brave enough to see problems through completely fresh eyes. Martinez's intervention triggered something deep in Marcus's consciousness. A memory surfaced from years ago during his abandoned graduate studies at Berkeley, not identical to Chen's challenge, but related through underlying mathematical principles that transcended her specialized approach. Chen's formulation was sophisticated and technical, but maybe there was a classical pathway that could bypass all the specialized machinery she expected. Marcus opened his eyes and reached for his chalk with sudden renewed purpose. Could 15 minutes be enough to attempt the impossible? Marcus picked up his chalk with trembling hands, but his eyes now burned with desperate determination. 15 minutes remained on the clock, barely enough time to write his name, let alone solve Chen's 4-year doctoral problem. The entire auditorium watched in stunned silence as he began erasing his previous failed attempts. Instead of following the advanced theoretical pathway that Chen expected, Marcus started writing something completely different. He was going back to basics. While Emma and Blake continued building elaborate modern solutions using cutting-edge mathematical machinery, Marcus began constructing his approach using classical techniques from the foundations of mathematical analysis, methods that were ancient when Chen's grandmother was born, but possessed an elegant simplicity that transcended specialized knowledge. "What is he doing?" whispered an Oxford professor in the audience. Chen watched with growing alarm as Marcuse's whiteboard filled with unfamiliar but mathematically valid reasoning. This wasn't the solution path she had spent 4 years developing. This was something else entirely. With 12 minutes left, Marcus's approach began taking shape. He was treating Chen's complex boundary value problem as a minimization challenge, finding the mathematical configuration that required the least energy, like water, naturally flowing downhill to find the lowest point. His chalk moved with increasing confidence as the classical methods revealed their power. Where Chen had used advanced functional analysis, Marcus employed direct variational techniques. Where she had relied on sophisticated operator theory, he used elegant energy estimates that any graduate student could follow. The mathematical community in the audience began stirring with recognition. This wasn't amateur fumbling. This was a completely valid alternative approach to one of the most challenging problems in mathematical physics. Dr. Martinez leaned forward, her eyes widening with amazement. She had seen this style before, this particular way of seeing problems through classical lenses. The memory was almost within reach now. Time expired. Marcus stepped back from his whiteboard, which displayed a complete solution using methods that hadn't been fashionable in decades but remained mathematically bulletproof. Chen stared at his work in shocked silence. Her 4-year struggle with advanced techniques had been bypassed by approaches she had dismissed as outdated. "Ladies and gentlemen," the competition director announced, "we now move to the presentation phase. Each finalist will have 30 minutes to explain their solution." Emma went first, delivering a competent but unremarkable explanation of Chen's published methodology. Blake followed with similar results: solid, predictable, forgettable. Then came Marcus's turn. He approached the microphone with quiet dignity, his maintenance uniform a stark contrast to his competitor's academic attire, but his presence commanding absolute attention from the global audience. "I solved this problem using classical variational methods," Marcus began, his voice steady and clear. "While examining the challenge, I realized it could be understood as asking a fundamental question. What mathematical shape minimizes energy while satisfying the given constraints?" Chen interrupted sharply, unable to contain herself. "Mr. Hayes, this problem requires advanced functional analysis and operator theory. Classical methods are insufficient for nonlinear boundary value problems of this sophistication." Marcus turned to face her directly, his response carrying the weight of everything he had endured. "Dr. Chen, with respect, I believe your assumption about required methods may be unnecessarily limiting. Sometimes the most sophisticated tools aren't necessary if you choose the right approach. Mathematics doesn't care about fashion, it only cares about truth." The room stirred with electric tension. Did the janitor just suggest that the department head's methodology was unnecessarily complicated? "This is undergraduate-level hand-waving," Chen snapped, her composure finally cracking under pressure. "Where's the rigor? Where's the advanced analysis that separates real mathematicians from enthusiasts? Dr. Martinez stood up abruptly. Actually, Victoria, I'd like to verify Mr. Hayes's approach myself. The next 20 minutes felt like hours as Martinez and two other expert judges examined Marcus's proof on auxiliary whiteboards. The auditorium held its collective breath, while 120,000 viewers worldwide watched the verification process unfold in real time. Mathematical notation filled sideboards as the experts traced through Marcus's reasoning step by step. His energy minimization approach was not only correct, but revealed deeper insights into why Chen's problem had been difficult in the first place. Finally, Dr. Martinez returned to her microphone, her voice carrying across the silent auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Hayes's solution is mathematically rigorous, complete, and brilliant. He has solved a research-level problem using classical techniques in a way that illuminates the underlying structure that makes this problem challenging. The auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. Live-stream viewers exploded with celebration. Academic Twitter burst into praise from mathematicians worldwide who recognized they had witnessed something extraordinary. Chen's world crumbled in real time as her authority was publicly undermined by someone she had dismissed as unqualified. The prejudice that had seemed so reasonable was exposed as blind arrogance before a global audience. But this approach ignores critical technical details, Chen protested desperately. What about regularity theory, Sobolev embeddings, compactness arguments? Marcus maintained perfect composure as he delivered the knockout blow. Dr. Chen, those techniques are certainly powerful and have their place in mathematics, but they're not always necessary. I've demonstrated that classical methods suffice for this particular problem. Perhaps the beauty of mathematics is that there are often multiple paths to truth, and sometimes the simplest path is the most elegant. A Berkeley professor observing via live stream typed in the chat, "This solution should be published immediately." An MIT mathematician added, "Extraordinary insight. This approach is actually superior to the standard methods." The expert judging panel reached their unanimous decision. Dr. Martinez approached the main microphone as cameras focused on her face. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have our winner, Marcus Hayes." The auditorium exploded in celebration, standing ovations from mathematicians who understood they had witnessed history. News crews captured the moment when merit triumphed over prejudice. Live stream viewers sharing the moment across social media platforms worldwide. Chen sat in her judge's chair, stunned into silence. The problem that had formed the foundation of her doctoral dissertation, her claim to mathematical sophistication and academic authority, had been solved in 2 hours by someone she had spent weeks trying to eliminate. Someone in the audience shouted over the celebration, "So when's the wedding, Dr. Chen?" Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd as everyone remembered her flippant marriage proposal from days earlier. Chen's face burned with embarrassment as her cruel joke returned to haunt her before cameras that would broadcast this moment to millions. But instead of humiliating Chen further, Marcus approached the microphone one final time. "Mathematics brought us together today through this competition. I hope it continues to bring people together across all boundaries and assumptions about where intelligence can be found." His grace in victory made Chen's attraction to him complete. Not just intellectual respect, but genuine admiration for someone who had proven himself her superior in every way that truly mattered. What happens when prejudice meets its match in both brilliance and character? As the celebration reached its peak, Dr. Martinez approached the main microphone with an expression that silenced the cheering crowd. Her face carried the weight of a shocking revelation. "Before we conclude," Martinez announced, "I have something important to share with everyone." The auditorium fell silent. Chen looked up from her devastated state, wondering what could possibly happen next. Throughout this competition, I've been troubled by familiar feelings about Mr. Hayes's mathematical style, his approach, his insights, his elegant solutions. They reminded me of someone exceptional I once knew. Martinez paused, her eyes finding Marcus among the contestants. I finally remembered. Marcus Hayes was one of my most brilliant doctoral students at Berkeley 7 years ago. The revelation struck like lightning. Chen's face went completely pale as the implications crashed over her. Martinez produced an official Berkeley folder. Mr. Hayes completed all PhD coursework with highest distinction. He had finished qualifying exams, passed comprehensive reviews, and was deep into dissertation research under my supervision. The devastating details continued. His record: 3.97 GPA in graduate coursework, 3 published papers in leading journals, Outstanding Teaching Assistant Award, and the prestigious Hertz Research Fellowship. The stunned silence was deafening. Chen realized she had systematically humiliated someone whose academic credentials exceeded her own. Mr. Hayes withdrew voluntarily during his final year to care for his mother during cancer treatment. His departure was a tremendous loss to our community. The institutional reckoning was immediate. University administrators understood they had employed a PhD-level mathematician as a janitor for 5 years due to their own prejudicial blindness. Chen's cruel marriage joke now seemed tragically ironic. She had made that flippant proposal to someone more academically accomplished than most faculty members. The live stream exploded with shock and outrage. Viewers realized they had witnessed systematic prejudice exposing itself before the world. Marcus's phone buzzed with messages from Berkeley offering immediate readmission and full funding. Princeton, Oxford, and Stanford followed within minutes. But as cameras focused on Chen's humiliated expression, everyone wondered the same thing. How would the woman who had spent weeks trying to destroy him react to discovering she had targeted someone who was not just her intellectual equal, but her superior in every measurable way? The most important conversation was yet to come. What happens when pride meets the unforgivable truth about itself? Hours later, the auditorium had emptied except for 2 people. Chen sat alone in the front row, staring at the whiteboards where her worldview had been systematically dismantled. Marcus approached quietly, still wearing his maintenance uniform despite the offers pouring in from elite universities worldwide. "Victoria," he said softly, using her first name for the first time. She looked up with tears in her eyes. "I owe you more than an apology. I owe you recognition of who you really are and acknowledgement of who I became in trying to destroy you." Her voice broke with genuine remorse. "I let prejudice blind me to brilliance. I'm ashamed of every cruel word, every dismissive gesture, every moment I treated you as less than human." Marcus sat beside her, his presence gentle despite everything she had done. "Victoria, you're not the first person to judge by appearances. But you might be the first to truly understand what you were wrong about." The silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility. "About my ridiculous marriage proposal," Chen whispered, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Marcus smiled, the first genuine warmth he had shown her. "Are you withdrawing the offer?" "Actually," Chen turned to face him fully, vulnerability replacing arrogance for the first time. "If you're willing to get to know the real me, not the prejudiced professor, but the woman who just learned something profound about herself, I'd like to take you to dinner, as equals." "I'd like that, Victoria. I think we both have a lot to learn from each other." 6 months later, university headlines told an extraordinary story. Dr. Marcus Hayes had returned to complete his PhD while serving as a visiting researcher. Professor Chen had established a scholarship program identifying overlooked talent among all university staff. Their relationship had blossomed into something neither expected, love built on mutual respect and intellectual equality. But their story sparked something larger. Social media movements encourage people to look beyond uniforms and job titles. Universities nationwide reviewed their hiring practices. Countless stories emerged of brilliant minds working in unexpected places. The voice that had opened this journey returned with quiet power. Intelligence doesn't wear a uniform. Brilliance doesn't require a pedigree. Love doesn't follow social hierarchies. How many extraordinary minds are you overlooking today? How many assumptions are you making about the people serving your coffee, cleaning your offices, or working jobs society deems ordinary? The next time you meet someone, look beyond the surface. Listen to their ideas. Respect their knowledge. You might discover that the person you least expect is exactly who you most need to know. If this story changed how you see people, share it. If it made you question your assumptions, comment below. And if you've ever been underestimated, tell us your story. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge us to find the extraordinary hiding in plain sight.